Welcome to the Farm Show on Westplex Talk 104.5. I'm your host, John Combest. It is Saturday, January 24th, 2026. The cold weather is rolling in. We're going to get to weather in just a minute, but I'll give you the outline for the show. We're going to start off with some cattle events. We're going to talk about some corn events. We'll talk a little bit about the E15 controversy that's been roiling in Washington, D.C. and across the country, particularly in corn producing areas. In B Block, we'll talk a little bit about the glyphosate and Roundup lawsuit and a new development that came out last Friday on that issue. And then in C Block, we're going to talk about one of the hottest issues in our four-county broadcast area, one of the hottest issues of last year, and especially the first part here in 2026, and that's data centers. We'll particularly look at data center controversies in Forestell, in Franklin County, and also in Warren County. And we'll ask the question, does this even matter to farmers and ranchers? Missouri Farm Bureau and American Farm Bureau Federation have an opinion on that topic. We'll play select clips from our weekday show, The Brad and John Show, which is broadcast here on Westplex Talk 104.5 from 7 to 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. But let's start off by getting into some of those Missouri events. Yesterday, the annual Cattlemen's Association, the Cattle Industry Convention, wrapped up at the facility formerly known as Tantera and now known as Margaritaville. It started on Wednesday and it wrapped up just yesterday. We haven't seen a lot of coverage of the event yet in media, but next Saturday, on next Saturday's show, we'll have a bit of media coverage, I presume, and we'll talk about what was discussed and some of the advancements and discussions from that cattle meeting. Speaking of cattle meetings, the Jefferson County Cattlemen have announced their annual dinner and auction. It will take place February 28th, so we have a little bit more than a month to prepare for it. It will be held at Hillsborough Knights of Columbus building upstairs. That address is 9330 Old Missouri 21 in Hillsborough. The time? Doors open at 4 p.m. Dinner starts at 5 p.m. All supporters and guests are welcome. No fee to attend. You heard that right. No fee to attend. The dinner sponsor this year? Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance, the Girardi Agency. Tea and water are provided. There will be a full cash bar service available. Again, the event is sponsored by the Jefferson County Cattlemen's Association. That's February 28th for the annual dinner and auction. Doors open at 4 p.m. Dinner starts at 5 p.m. For more information, I'd suggest you go to Facebook and check out Jeffco Cattle. Well, if you're like me and you've tried to go to the grocery store in the last few days, you see people racing for their staples: food, water, bread, milk. How do necessary staples of food and water play a crucial role in aiding cattle through some of these extended cold periods? Here's what USDA has to say.
Two important considerations for cattle producers as they protect their livestock from impacts of Arctic cold and other adverse winter weather effects: water, and plenty of it, according to North Dakota State University Extension's Carl Hoppe.
Frozen waters really do have a big effect on cattle performance because once the water freezes and they quit drinking, they quit eating at the same time. So adequate water is paramount.
Whether it's manual chopping of ice in water troughs to give cattle H2O access, or
heat your element either below the water bowl or actually an element that's in the water bowl that turns on and off based on the temperature of the water to help keep your water from freezing up. There might be propane or coal-fired type things or wood-fired type burners that can be submerged in larger tanks to try to keep the water from freezing up.
Just as important, feed, especially that with greater energy content for animals to combat Arctic weather conditions, and if needed, high-energy supplements such as grain or byproducts in the event of extended cold temperatures. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
Rod and his team had a few other things to say about the weather pattern, the weather system coming through the southern United States and up to the Midwest. Here's what he had to say about long-term effects on agriculture.
This week's winter storm system traveling through the southern U.S. and potential impacts to agriculture. USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey starts with livestock.
I think the biggest risk to livestock with this system will be in the area that does receive the heavy precipitation, snow, sleet, or freezing rain, because it will be accompanied by unusually low temperatures for the south, along with the bitter cold to follow the system, and quite a bit of wind with and after the system as well.
While livestock in the nation's northern tier are more acclimated to bitter cold, dangerous wind chill conditions could still be a factor. As for winter wheat and other overwintering crops, while cold exposure of high plains growing areas are a concern in the southern quadrant of the country,
it's great news for winter grains, for cover crops, and for replenishment of soil moisture. Just about every area of the southern United States that's going to get moisture from the system will actually benefit from that from a drought standpoint.
I'm Ron Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
One of the biggest considerations we all have is what to do in terms of a power outage. How do we keep food safe? Rod and friends report.
Bitter cold weather experienced by several parts of the nation at different times this winter. In some cases, the power outages caused by these conditions served as a reminder in food safety.
Just kind of knowing the general basics about food safety and power outages and some tips and things to do can be helpful in saving your food.
Meredith Carruthers of USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service provides some rules of thumb regarding how long food in a refrigerator or freezer remains safe after those appliances lose power. First, remember that cold will be retained inside a fridge or freezer after the power goes out. However,
food needs to be below 40 degrees Fahrenheit in the refrigerator to be considered safe. So once that temperature starts creeping above 40 degrees Fahrenheit, you've reached the danger zone and it's going to only have a certain amount of time before it's unsafe.
As for the length of time where a refrigerator retains a safe temperature for food,
on average, a refrigerator that has no power is going to keep a safe temperature for about 4 hours.
Consideration needs to be made prior to the food hour deadline about transferring food inside the fridge to a cooler with ice to keep it safe until the power returns. If a cooler or ice are not available after those 4 hours, refrigerated food needs to be discarded. Carruthers explains what should be considered perishable and unsafe to consume or use.
Some of those things that would be unsafe would be your raw meats and poultry, your cooked leftovers, anything that's a leftover that has been cooked would need to be tossed. Your dairy products, eggs, any soft cheeses, any fruit and vegetables that are already cut. So whole fruits like a whole apple or a whole carrots or something like that, those are safe and fine. But if it's been cut or if it's been pre-washed, then it needs to be discarded. And then an array of condiments and things.
Regarding safe storage of food inside a freezer that loses power,
it's going to maintain that cold temperature and keep that food at a safe temperature for about 24 hours if it's half full and 48 hours if it's full. The reason the 48 hours if it's full is because the more food that's in there that's frozen is kind of acting as a cold source for itself. As it's thawing, it's still emitting cold temperatures for that longer amount of time.
Now, some folks faced in this situation during bitter winter conditions, well, they try to be creative in keeping their food safe.
Try to store food outside, use the outside temperature as almost like their nature's refrigerator.
And while possible, this can be done safely.
We really try and encourage not to use outside as an option for storage of food.
Due to unpredictability of storage conditions, from varying temperatures to potential contamination by animals and bacteria. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
Okay, moving from a USDA update from Washington, D.C., back a little bit closer to home, the Missouri corn growers have announced their scholarship applications are now available. Actually, they announced this last month, but I'm just getting to it now. The Missouri Corn Growers Association and Missouri Corn Merchandising Council are continuing the long-standing tradition of awarding 7 deserving students $1,000 scholarships in 2026. Applications for the Missouri Corn Scholarship Program are now available online for high school seniors and college juniors pursuing a degree in agriculture. Investing in the future of our industry goes beyond building markets. It's also investing in the people, the families, and the future leaders in agriculture. said Missouri Corn Scholarship Chair Brian Willett of Mexico, Missouri. He continues, whether it's corn production, marketing, agronomy, or policy work, our industry is ever changing, and we want to invest in the students who are ready to take on the challenges to help move agriculture forward. Applications for the 2026 Missouri Corn Scholarships are available at mocorn.org. That's mocorn.org under the Education tab and must be submitted online. To be eligible, students must submit an application, official high school or college transcript, and at least one letter of recommendation by February 13th, 2026. High school senior applicants must be Missouri residents from a Missouri farm or rural area. They must plan to attend a 2 or 4-year college or university and major in an agriculture-related field. The scholarship funds will apply toward the freshman year of college expenses for high school winners. College applicants must also be a Missouri resident from a Missouri farm or rural area and currently a junior enrolled in a 4-year college or university majoring in an agriculture-related field. The scholarship funds will apply toward the senior year of expenses for college winners. The Missouri Corn Scholarship Committee will review the applications, and recipients will be notified by mail on or before April 15th, 2026. Again, to learn more about these scholarships and the Missouri Corn programs, visit mocorn.org. And speaking of Missouri corn growers, next Wednesday, January 28th, will be the Corn Growers Annual Meeting and Advocacy Day.
I love attending annual meetings because it gives me a chance to voice my opinion as the next generation coming up.
So we start the day off with a business meeting where we set some policies and elect officers. Then we'll go to the Capitol and again just meet with our legislators and talk to them about the major issues that we have.
It's great to be able to be here today and have farmers going in and talking about their story and how the decisions that are being made in the Capitol affects them on the farm.
It's an opportunity to have that voice be heard.
A lot of people just like to stand back and say, oh, somebody else will do it. But if everybody had that way of thought, what kind of legislation would we have passed?
It's a great organization to have a collected voice to make a difference.
We're here to tackle those issues and be your boots on the ground, making sure your voice is heard.
And here's what Elena Fork from the Corn Growers Group had to say specifically about their lobbying day.
We will actually head to the Capitol with our growers and really start advocating for some of the bills that we are pushing for this session, and also just to get some face-to-face interaction between our growers and their legislators.
And for more information, again, that website address is mocorn.org. That's mocorn.org. Well, corn has been top of mind for folks in Washington, D.C., lobbying for pro-ethanol policies. The National Corn Growers Association put out a statement on Thursday. Here's what they said. The House is expected to advance a funding bill today, that would be Thursday, that omits language that would allow consumers across the country to access fuels with a 15% corn ethanol blend, often referred to as E15. In response to this development, Ohio farmer and National Corn Growers Association President Jed Bauer released the following statement. Corn growers are disgusted, disappointed, and disillusioned that after spending years of calling for passage of E15, Congress has again punted, and it has done so in a spectacularly weak and offensive way. Bizarrely, members of Congress are now planning to establish a rural energy council to explore this legislation, as if we are in the beginning stages of discussing E15. We already have a bill. We already have an agreement with the petroleum industry after months of negotiation. But instead of acting, Congress is now suggesting a process-ridden task force that kicks the can down the road once again. Congress is choosing to leave America's 500,000 corn farmers behind in favor of a handful of refineries. And before we go to break, I'm going to read you a few highlights of a piece from E&E News. That's Environment and Energy News. That's produced by the publication Politico. This is brought to us by Andres Picon of E&E News by Politico. This is the most detailed piece and explanation of E15 I've seen all week. The likely omission of the biofuel language, a perennial priority for lawmakers from Midwest and Plain states, bodes well for the bipartisan spending bills and Congress's effort to avoid a shutdown at the end of next week. But it represents yet another setback for the biofuel backers and the agriculture lobby, who worked all day Wednesday to try to get the provision into the must-pass spending deal. This quote is from Representative Zach Nunn, a Republican. He says, quote, E15 is one of the most important things for folks back home in Iowa, and we're going to make sure it gets done. Nunn says that after introducing the biofuel amendment to the spending package. The reporter goes on to say, the House Rules Committee called it quits Wednesday night before deciding what amendments to make in order for floor debate. Conservatives were also demanding votes on some of their priorities. Even if leaders agree to some amendment votes, the ethanol language is unlikely to be added. It could instead ride on a supplemental funding package the Senate may try to pass later this year. Nunn's proposed amendment was a version of the, quote, Nationwide Consumer and Fuel Retailer Choice Act, end of quote, from Nebraska Republicans Representative Adrian Smith and Senator Deb Fischer. Supporters made a last-ditch effort to get it included in a spending bill at the end of 2024, and they tried again to get it into the fiscal 2026 defense policy bill. The language has been nixed each time amid concerns from hardline conservatives and members who represent certain oil refiners. And here's a money line. The American Petroleum Institute struck a deal with agriculture and biofuels groups earlier this month, sparking more GOP infighting over the legislation. This latest effort fizzled Wednesday amid opposition from House GOP leaders, a number of Republican senators, and the White House. To learn more about what's happened this week and to get a look at what might happen next week and down the road as we near a potential government shutdown, I would suggest you check out the National Corn Growers Association properties on social media and on YouTube. Still to come, some potential good news for glyphosate/Roundup, at least as far as Bayer is concerned, and also the controversial topic of data centers in our community.